Hey guys, our devotion today comes from Genesis chapter 42, looking at the second half today, beginning with verse 25. Remember to pray for our church family. Today we're praying for Dave and Ann Condon. So Pastor Mike led us through the first part of this story yesterday, talking about how Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to get food because of severe famine. And of course we know that this is the reason that God has lifted up Joseph, really that God has brought Joseph through this huge salvation to many people and to his own family. And Pastor Mike talked about the symbolism there, how that's where salvation was, so that's where they went to get life, and that was the only place it was. We see the rest of the story here. I love just the human element that is in this story when we look at his brothers and they show up to Egypt to get their grain, and Joseph recognizes them and he just messes with them. What is going on with Joseph here? What he wants to accomplish out of what he does here, where he keeps one of them back, Simeon, and then he sends the rest of them home and he puts the money back in their bags. And it's just interesting. I think there's some of Joseph here, just maybe, I don't know, maybe he's got a little bit of hidden back aggression he's taking out and he's just kind of messing with them. Not 100% sure about everything that goes on here. I like it though. It's a fun read. I think that what stood out to me when I read this chapter today was the reaction of Joseph's brothers. It's been a long time since they committed that act of hatred and sin against Joseph, and where they lied to their father about what happened. And yet you see very clearly in this chapter, they still have this huge sense of guilt over what they've done. They immediately assume that what is going on in this chapter is their punishment finally catching up with them. God's judgment has fallen on them for what they did to their brother. And you see that when they're first being accused of being spies. You see it when they get back home and they realize that the money they paid for the grain has been returned to them. They say, look what God has done to us. God's judging us for what we did. And you still don't really see them. I mean, I would think that it'd be time to come in repentance. You know, throughout all this, it seems like Reuben, the oldest brother, is one of the only ones with a conscience that wants kind of to do the right thing. And it just made me think today about, how sin can weigh on our hearts like that. We can try to bury it. We can try to leave it alone. It doesn't just go away. Of course, we understand that that's what Christ died for us for, to pay for our sin. That's the only way to reconcile the great cost we have. We've earned death for ourselves, but it will weigh on us. It'll convince us that we're worthless. It'll fill us with guilt and shame. And I'm just so thankful that, understanding who Christ is, we know that our guilt comes with the purpose of driving us to Him, seeking forgiveness. Sometimes we can carry around guilt for a long time and let it become shame, let the enemy speak lies to us. There's so many verses, so many scriptures about forgiveness, about dealing with guilt. This is just one that stood out to me today. I want to read it to you. It's Psalm 103, starting at verse 2. It says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all His benefits, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from destruction, who crowns you with loving kindness and tender mercies." It goes on and on. But you may be somebody who needs to hear that passage today. Maybe you're weighed down with a past sin, something that breaks your own heart when you think about it, and you've buried it. But you have to know, God just doesn't want to forgive you. He wants to lift you up. He wants to redeem you, your life, from the pit. He wants to crown you with His loving mercies and do good to you. This is an encouragement to me today. Just to remember, sit and dwell on the goodness of the Lord. See how, if we're feeling guilt today, if we're feeling shame, let it just push us to run to the Lord. Receive His goodness and His kindness today that He poured out on us through Jesus Christ. I pray that this passage is a blessing to you today as you read about this. If God reveals something to you, share it with us on Facebook, on YouTube. Let's minister to one another.